Hello everyone, time for your Week 8 overview for Humanities 103. And as you can see by that picture right there, we are still working on flood myths. Here's your course schedule. It looks pretty typical, although you will see that there are two things that are due at the end of the week that are brand new. One of them will be the midterm quiz, and one of them your novel analysis progress report. And I'll tell you about those in just a minute. The first two readings this week are scholarly papers that have to do with similarities among many of the flood myths around the world. The very first one is interesting because it looks at the oral tales or myths of ancient cultures as a way of determining how they adapted to floods. And the takeaway then is, is there any useful information that we can gather about how we might respond to increased flooding or rising sea levels by looking at that mythology regarding floods from the past? The second one, structural parallels in two flood myths, look at the similarities between the Genesis account of the flood, or Noah's Ark, and a Maori flood myth. Now, the Maori are the indigenous people from New Zealand. The next are two sources that look at the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, the reason we want to look at this particular reading is because of the absolute eerie similarities between the flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh and what we typically think of as the Noah's Ark story. The only thing is, the Epic of Gilgamesh was written approximately 1,000 years before the Genesis version of the flood. So there's all kinds of interesting ideas and theories around that. And really, if you go back to some of our very first readings at the beginning of the semester, where we talked about the problem of similarities, there's good information on there about why that might be so. So the first one there, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is a video that gives you a good overview of the entire piece of, well, we'll call it writing. It was put on cuneiform tablets. And then the second one is actually looking at the text of the Epic of Gilgamesh. So what I've done is I have a link there to what's called Tablet 11, or it'd be like Chapter 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of the flood. And so as you read that, I want you to be thinking about things you see in there that sound like they're very similar or even identical to the Genesis version of the flood. Now, even if it wasn't a story that you heard as a child, or I think most of us have some passing, knowledge of what that story entails. And if you really don't know, well, then reading that earlier paper about the similarities between the Genesis version of the flood and the Maori version, well, that will give you all the background you need in order to really make a good comparison between these two particular stories. So that's sort of our theme this week, is what are these similar elements in some of these very, very well-known flood stories? This week you have a midterm quiz. This quiz is 16 short answer fill in the blank and true, false, or multiple choice questions, no essay questions, 30 points possible. All of the information in the quiz is covered in the first 8 weeks of this semester, and you can access any or all of the course readings and videos while you're taking the quiz. The quiz will be open for 3 hours, which gives you plenty of time to go back into the modules and find the information that you want. Please do not access any sources outside of those readings and videos that are part of our Canvas course site. The quiz will open up on Wednesday, the 12th at midnight, and it will stay open until Sunday, the 16th. Once you start the quiz, you must finish it in one sitting. If you close the quiz, you won't be able to access it again. So as I said, you have 3 hours. This is plenty of time to complete the quiz. I've never had anybody take all 3 hours. Typically, it takes between maybe an hour and a half to finish this quiz up satisfactorily. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to tell you about that. The other thing you have due this week is your novel analysis progress report. This is letting me know, first of all, what book you've chosen to read, and if at this point you have any problems or questions about the book itself, about the assignment. Remember that you can use all of those critical theories that we talked about at the very beginning of the semester, but we're also going to be still reading some yet to come. So don't get worried or stressed if you start reading your book and you think, I have no idea what to use to do my analysis. By the time it comes to actually write your paper, which will be at the end of this semester, you will have everything you need to do a really good analysis. Okay, but the first part, of course, is to get the book and start reading it. So that's what I'd like you to do. Just fill out that very short progress report and post it for me. Join me for office hours this week on the chat on our Canvas course site. It will be Tuesday, as usual, between 12 and 2. So you can just open up chat, ask me a question, and I'll get back to you very quickly because I'll be monitoring the chat space. If you have any questions regarding things related to the course, such as the midterm quiz, the novel analysis progress report, any issues related to Canvas, please post your questions in the Ask the Instructor discussion thread. That way everybody can benefit from the question and the answer. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later.